Good morning. Hope all of you are fine. Today we are going to discuss in continuation the fluid and electrolyte management of a patient. And in this video, we'll focus on the various the ions, the sodium, potassium, their existence in the various body compartments. In previous video, we have discussed how much amount of body water is there, what percentage of body water is there in a male or in a female. So let's go through it. Now, as far as the composition of various fluid compartments is concerned in our human body, you can see here we are having two compartments, the ECF compartment, that is extracellular fluid compartment, and this one extracellular fluid compartment, and this one is intracellular fluid compartment, right? In between these two compartments, there is a concentration gradient between these two compartments, and that is controlled by the adenosine triphosphatase, the enzyme, that is ATP driven sodium potassium pumps are there, and these pumps are located within the cell membrane. This is the inside of the cell area, this is the cell membrane, and this one is outside the cell. Now there is an equilibrium between these two, the inside of the cell, this one, and outside the cell, this one. In extracellular fluid compartment, outside the various cells, the principal cation is sodium, Na+, whereas inside the cell, the principal cations are basically the potassium K+ is the main one, and in addition magnesium ions are also important, Mg2+. Principal anions in the extracellular fluid associated with sodium is chloride ion and bicarbonate ion, whereas in intracellular fluid phosphate ions are there and sulfate ions are there, and another major portion is contributed by the proteins, right? So in this slide, the take home message is sodium in extracellular fluid and potassium in intracellular fluid compartment, right? So let's go to the next slide. And the equilibrium between these two, the sodium and potassium, is maintained by the ATP driven sodium potassium pumps that is located within the cell membrane. Simple. Now, how to remember this? Here E stands for extracellular fluid compartment, this one. It contains sodium, and ICF intracellular fluid compartment contains potassium. If we are going with the alphabetical order in English language, E comes first as compared to I. ECF, then intracellular fluid. In sodium S and potassium P, just opposite. In this case, sodium, the S comes later as compared to P. So this is just like inverse relationship, means ECF with sodium, ECF coming first, sodium coming later, they are associated, and the other way around. So just remember, ECF is associated with sodium. So obviously the other one is true. That is, ICF is associated with potassium. After that, first we are going to discuss today is basically the extracellular fluid. In extracellular fluid, we all know it is having two components, that is plasma and interstitial fluid compartment. And this extracellular fluid is almost 1/3 of the total body water. Out of this 1/3 of total body water, 25% is contributed by plasma, this one, and 75% of ECF is contributed by interstitial fluid. Now, as per Gibbs-Donnan equilibrium equation, higher content protein, that is organic anions, that is there in plasma, it leads to a higher plasma cation composition as compared to interstitial fluid. Now we are talking about the equilibrium between the plasma and interstitial fluid. Both are part of extracellular fluid compartment. And you all know we can measure ECF, extracellular fluid compartment. We can measure total body water, and after subtracting ECF from total body water, we can get intracellular fluid measurement indirectly. So here we are talking about the equilibrium that exists between the two compartments of ECF, that is plasma and interstitial fluid, and the responsibility is owned by the organic anions protein that exists in plasma. Proteins add to osmolality of plasma, determining fluid balance across the capillary endothelium. This is the take-home message. So the proteins are very important component of plasma as far as the osmolality or osmotic pressure is concerned. So remember, proteins are important for plasma, right? Now here the two concepts are very important. Remember the ions, the movement of ions, various ions, the sodium, potassium, the magnesium, the chloride, as well as the proteins between different fluid compartments, means from plasma to interstitial fluid, or from ECF to ICF. ECF means extracellular fluid, ICF means intracellular fluid, or vice versa. These movements are restricted, right? Whereas water is freely diffusible. So whenever there is any emergency, body reacts with it. And so there is very little change in volume of water in any one compartment. Whenever there is some emergency, imbalance, body starts just making it in an equilibrium manner. The body just responds back. So water is freely diffusible. Smaller molecule as compared to a protein, and the various ions, they are having a large electrostatic attractions. The forces are there, whereas the water is a covalent compound, small as compared to protein size. So water is freely diffusible through the cell membrane between the various compartments of ECF and ICF. Okay, so take home message for this slide is water is freely diffusible. So it can make a difference in maintaining the homeostasis. After that, here it is written that sodium is confined to extracellular fluid due to its osmotic and electrical properties. It remains associated with water. What about potassium? If you can remember the periodic table, the sodium and potassium, they fall in the same column. The basic reason behind it is the sodium nucleus is, the size of the atom is smaller as compared to the potassium. It has greater affinity for the OH ion. H2O is equal to H plus and OH negative. So that's why relatively, when compared to potassium, sodium is more inclined to have the electrostatic attraction with water. So it remains associated with water when compared to potassium ion, more associated with water, the sodium. And what is the clinical significance of knowing this? Sodium containing fluids like normal saline 0.9%, dextrose normal saline, that is DNS, 3N normal saline 3%. They are distributed throughout the extracellular fluid, and they add to both intravascular, that is plasma, and interstitial fluid spaces. Why? Because now sodium is associated with the water. So sodium containing fluids, they increase both plasma as well as interstitial fluid, the fluid present between the various cells, the matrix, the interstitium, as well as the fluid present in plasma inside the blood vessels. Okay. Now, how much it is going to raise? The administration of sodium containing fluids, it expands the plasma, that is intravascular volume, very important in the management of various patients, the shock patients and other patients who is dehydrated, as well as the interstitial fluid. If there is larger amount of fluid in the interstitial spaces, it may lead to presentation of the generalized NSARCA or edema. So in these two spaces, the fluid is being affected, the volume is being affected by administration of sodium containing fluids, and the ratio is 1:3. Means the volume of plasma is going to be increased by 1 unit, and at the same time the volume of the interstitial space fluid or water is going to be increased 3 times. So 1:3 ratio is there. May come into your future PG entrance also as an multiple choice question. So take home message: use of sodium containing crystalloid like normal saline, like dextrose normal saline, like 3N normal saline. 3N normal saline is usually given in hyponatremia cases. Less of sodium is there. It leads to 3 times increase in interstitial fluid as compared to plasma volume increase, and both are component of extracellular fluid. Okay, till now I think everything is fine. Very quickly we'll go through another concept of osmotic pressure. The osmotic pressure concept, how it is important. The physiologic activity of electrolytes in solution, basically they depends on these things, like number of particles per unit volume. Whenever we are dealing with number of particles per unit volume, we usually use millimoles per liter. Moles, you already know, Avogadro number 6.022 into 10 to the power 23 atoms or molecules or particles in 1 mole, and here we are dealing with millimoles, right? 1 by 1000 part of a mole. So number of particles per unit volume, whenever we are dealing with the number of ions, that is electric charges per unit volume, we use milliequivalents per liter. Like in cases of sodium or potassium, the values are usually in milliequivalents per liter because they are ions. And whenever we are dealing with number of osmotically active ions per unit volume, we use the milliosmoles per liter. Okay. I hope till now everything is fine. The concentration of electrolytes, they expressed in terms of chemical combining activity, or if we are dealing with ions like sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, the various electrolytes, we usually mention them as equivalents. Now, what is this equivalent of an ion? An equivalent of an ion is its atomic weight expressed in grams and divided by the valency of the ion. Means, suppose the sodium, the equivalent of the sodium ion would be like atomic weight in grams divided by the valency of the sodium. And as you already know, the sodium as well as potassium, these are univalent ions. We can write them as Na plus and K plus. So 1 milliequivalent of sodium is equal to 1 millimole. Remember this. Whereas for divalent ions like magnesium, written as Mg2 plus, 2 milliequivalents will be equal to 1 millimole. Remember this, right? Why 2 milliequivalents? Because here we are having atomic weight divided by valency, and valency of magnesium is 2, and atomic weight expressed in grams can be expressed as moles, right? So atomic weight expressed in grams, this valency will go to this side of the equation, the left hand side, and it will be multiplied by 1 equivalent into valency, yani 2. 2 milliequivalents is equal to 1 millimole for divalent ions, right? So what is the rule here? The number of milliequivalents of cations must be balanced by the same number of milliequivalents of anions. This is the whole purpose of the story what we have just discussed, that the milliequivalent should be balanced, the positive as well as negative ions inside the cell and outside the cell. This is a very basic thing we must remember whenever we are discussing the fluid and electrolyte management. Okay, always balance the milliequivalents of cations with the milliequivalents of anions. This is the rule. Now, osmotic pressure, the movement of water, as we have discussed, the water is freely diffusible across a cell membrane, and the movement of water, it depends on the osmosis. This is the most important part. And this osmosis, this is determined by concentration of solutes on each side of membrane. Okay, the concentration of solutes inside the cell and outside the cell. Usually osmotic pressure is measured in milliosmoles or osmoles, and it indicates the actual number of active particles that is participating in maintenance of osmotic pressure. For example, 1 millimole of sodium chloride, it contributes 2 milliosmoles. How come? 1 milliosmol, that is Na plus, 1 from sodium and Cl minus, and 1 from chloride. In total 2 milliosmoles is contributed by 1 millimole of sodium chloride as a part of osmotic pressure. How we can calculate our serum osmolality? This is an equation: twice the sodium value plus the glucose value divided by 18 plus blood urea nitrogen divided by 2.8. This is an equation by which we can calculate the serum osmolality. Normally, in our body, the osmolality of ICF and ECF is maintained between 290 milliosmol to 310 milliosmol in each compartment. And most of the intravenous fluid crystalloids that is available, that is isotonic with our plasma, they are having osmolality in this range. For example, the normal saline 0.9%, it is having osmolality of around 308. Any change in osmotic pressure in any compartment, if that is there, it starts the redistribution of water. Till then, the osmotic pressure, the gradient becomes equal on both sides. So in this slide, we can see we are having plasma, and in plasma, the principal cation is sodium Na+, whereas principal anions are chloride and bicarbonates. These will become important in the management of acid-base disorders. So it is important. Just focus on the encircled part. In plasma, sodium is important as a cation, and chloride and bicarbonate, these are important as an anions, the principal ones. In interstitial fluid, again part of ECF, extracellular fluid compartment, sodium is the principal cation, chloride and bicarbonate principal anions. So no change, almost no change in sodium, chloride and bicarbonate in plasma as well as interstitial fluid, as both are part of extracellular fluid compartment. Now just focus on this part. This is intracellular fluid. Here the principal cation is not sodium. Here the principal cation in ICF is potassium, right? Whereas anions, again they are different. The sulfate and various phosphate ions along with proteins. These are important. This is the basic difference between ECF and ICF composition. And finally, just quickly, a female 60 kg weight, male 70 kg, we have discussed this already. And suppose a 70 kg male is there, total body water will be around 42 liters. The ICF around 28 liters. Total ECF is around 14 liter. 14 plus 28, 42 liters. And in this male patient, plasma will be around 3.5 liters and interstitial fluid is around 10.5 liters. Similarly, in females, 60 kg weight, 30 liter would be the total body water in a female. Out of this 30 liters, the ICF will be 20 liters, that is 2/3 of 30 liters. And from where 30 liters we got the figure? The 50% of total body water in females. So 30 liters, right? And out of this ECF, that amounts to 10 liters in females, in a 60 kg female, around 10 kg is ECF. Plasma contributed by 2.5 liters and interstitial fluid around 7.5 liters. Okay. So that's all for today. We'll continue with it in the next video. Any query, you can write it, you can share it. Okay, see you. Thank you.